Green Lantern New Guardians Annual Number 1, written by Keith Giffen, art by Scott Collins and Andre Bresson, aka a backdoor pilot to a new book, Threshold. Like, it has nothing to do with the New Guardians. That's not true. It does, but it is so clearly a backdoor pilot. So, important to know here is the Tenebrian Dominion, which is run by a character named Lady Styx, who apparently has a treaty with the Guardians of the Universe where they just stay out of each other's way. And the best way to describe the Tenebrian Dominion is it's the shady part of Star Wars. Like, it's a whole bunch of corruption and backroom dealings. Okay, cool, got it? All right, so we open up in the Tenebrian Dominion. That's going to be a hard one. And we see this huge hulking brute is just storming through a crowd. He's attacking everybody, being fired upon by this group called the Crimson Thrust. And it turns out, it's not fully explained here, but it turns out that he's part of this game show where he is hunted by people. Anyone at all. And there's this team called the Crimson Thrust who are like really, really good bounty hunters. And they scoop this guy up. People are asking for pictures of him. And they are talking about getting their bounty. And we see some dude with a Green Lantern ring looking on in disgust. Anyway, cut to some other random space sector. Arkillo and St. Walker are like, looks like the Third Army's been here. Because while this is not a tie-in to the Third Army, it is still that same plot. So they're like, look like the Third Army's been here. How do you know? There aren't bodies. Everything's destroyed, but there aren't any bodies. And Arkillo's kind of like, I don't fear them, but like we should really do something about this. So at that point, they start making the way out towards Star Sapphire and Kyle Rayner, who are currently on Zamaron. They just land, and they're there for Violet Lantern training for Kyle. And Star's like, hey, guys, here's Kyle. We need some training for him. But the Zamarons are immediately like, oh, God, okay. Hey, Carol, we need to talk. And he takes off Carol and is just like, all right, here's the deal. You know that whole treaty we got going on with Lady Styx and Tenebrian Dominion? And they're like, yeah. It's like, cool, we need you to break that. Because we need to play the third party here, and we want Lady Styx to join us in attacking the Guardians. We're going to stab him in the back. So at that point, Kyle meets the person who's going to be training him, and it's just some hulking brute of a Star Sapphire. You will literally never see this again. It does not matter. And the whole focus here is on Star Sapphire's mission to go into Tenebrian space and talk to Lady Styx and get her to break the treaty between her and the Guardians. And at that point, Arkillo and St. Walker show up and they're like, hey, we can help if you want. And Sapphire's like, yeah, if I'm going to be going into that sector of space, I could probably use all the help I can get. And they're like, all right, well, where's Kyle? He's like, he will not be a part of the story. Let's go. So at that point, they're trying to figure out how in the world they're going to actually get in to Tenebrian space, because lanterns are obviously not allowed in there. And they figure out that there is a Green Lantern right on the edges of Tenebrian space, and it's the guy we saw before. It turns out his name is Jedediah Cull, and he is a deep cover operative in the Tenebrian Dominion. The Guardians basically just cut him loose, let him do whatever he wants, but he's there under deep cover to keep an eye on things. And they're like, yeah, cool, can you get us into like deeper Dominion space? And he's like, yes, I most certainly can, but you're not going to be able to go with me. I'm going to send you off to some smugglers, and they're going to take care of you. And we meet the smugglers. They are not important to this at all, but they clearly are not exactly morally on the up and up. And they keep on making snide remarks at Carol and Arkillo and St. Walker. And then the three lanterns just like blow up their poker game and says like, okay, cool, can we get going now? And Jedediah's like, yeah, okay, you guys have fun together. I'm going to stay over here. And they're like, you're not going to join us? And he's like, no. I will barely be featured in this book. You go do your thing. So the smugglers bring them into deep Dominion space, and we see Carol and the one female smuggler get their way separated from the rest of the group. And the smuggler turns on Carol and knocks her out and says, like, hey, remember that game show from the beginning? I'm going to put you on it because I get a bounty if I give them good contestants. And we see that the other smugglers have tried to do the same thing with St. Walker and Arkillo, but they didn't succeed because Arkillo's a beast and St. Walker's too cool. And so they start beating the crap out of them, saying, like, did you do the same thing to Carol? And they're like, yeah. And it's like, all right, well, where is she? And it's like, oh, she's probably already in, like, their training camp. And so we cut over to their training camp. They put a power dampener on her ring. She's unable to use it. And they're like, all right, well, you're not going to be able to use your ring because that would allow you to get off planet. So, like, are you able to fight, like, normally at all? And they're like, oh, yeah, you want to see? Carol beats the crap out of the two guards and is like, oh, great job. Yeah, she's a real fighter. And they put her down with a whole bunch of other guards coming in and basically curb stomping her. And just like, all right, well, she's going to be a good contestant on the show, I guess. So then we see Jedediah Call, once again, just chilling in his apartment. The door busts down. It's Arkillo. And he's like, hey, you put us in the hands of some unmorally cool smugglers. And Jedediah's like, yeah, they're smugglers. That's quite literally their entire job description. Why did you trust them to begin with? And they're like, you said they were cool. I was like, no, I said they were smugglers. So either way, Arkillo's like, hey, look, we need you to help us out. We need you to help us get Carol back. And Jedediah's like, yeah, not going to happen. She's already in the game, so there's no hope of getting her out. And at that point, Arkillo's like, okay, well, explain to me how this game works. And then the reader gets an explanation of, you are on this planet, you have one day to do whatever you want, to get away, try to escape, but then at that point, the entire planet is allowed to hunt you, and whoever manages to kill this person gets a huge cash prize. So that's the whole thing. And it also says you can't commit suicide or else your friends and family will be pulled in to replace you. That's it. So they give her the rundown and say, all right, that's what it's going to be. Anyway, we're dumping you off here. You have one day. Clock starts now. Bye. And they dump her off in the middle of a trash dump as she's announced to the crowd of, here's your new target. So as she looks around, she sees Lady Strix nearby. Sorry, Lady Styx. And it's just like, hey, you're Lady Styx. I came, my whole mission was really to talk to you. We want you to break the treaty in order to stop the Guardians. And Lady Styx is like, nah. Here's the thing. They're getting rid of free will, and yeah, they might come after me, but, like, I've actually never had a problem with free will before. Like, pretty much everything in my dominions as I want it to be, and they do what I want them to do. And she's like, okay, fine, whatever. You don't want to join. You're going to die. Like, the Third Army's coming for you. But regardless, can you maybe get me out of these games? Because I'm literally just an emissary, like, on a mission here. And Lady Styx is like, nah, I think it's cool. You're going to die. Bye. And she just leaves. So at that point, Jedediah sneaks up behind Carol, says, like, don't look at me. Don't make any eye contact. Just go where I tell you to go. And as he directs her across the town, we see St. Walker and Arkillo in disguises. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Hey, can we get off this planet now? And Jedediah's like, yeah, here's the thing. St. Walker, Arkillo, do not use your rings. They have little nano cameras everywhere. That's how they manage to follow everyone for this show. So don't use your energy or else it'll pick them up and you'll be captured as well. So at that point, they call up another smuggler, except this one's probably actually cool. His name is Rocco. And Arkillo's like, oh, another smuggler. I'm gonna beat the crap out of him, make sure he knows he can't mess with us. And St. Walker uses his ring to hold back Arkillo, and at that point Jedediah's like, you idiot. You absolute buffoon. Because the entirety of their capturing force shows up at that point. So the smuggler has to get a real quick move on here, get out as soon as possible. Everyone hops on the ship, except Arkillo knocks out Jedediah, and was like, nah, this is all your fault. You suck. And he keeps him out of the ship as it flies away. At which point the capturing people show up and say, like, oh, hey, he's got a Green Lantern ring. He could probably replace the Star Sapphire if she manages to get away. Let's bring him in for processing. So we see a huge escape sequence. Arkillo's got the smuggler by the throat because he keeps on calling Arkillo hideous and ugly. And Arkillo, I guess, has feelings about that. And at that point, he he's like, say you're sorry. And the guy's like, okay, sorry, I won't do it again. And he lets the smuggler go. And they say like, hey, do you have any sort of like warp drive or anything like that we can escape? And he's just like, yeah, but I don't like using it. It's still kind of a little bit shaky. But they don't have any options, so he uses it. And it turns out it's just like a makeshift boom tube is the best way I can describe it. And so they go through the boom tube. The rest of the capturing force can't find them. And as they come out, they're just like a couple of light years away from, what's it called? Zamaron. And they're like, oh, cool. Hey, could you manage to drop us off back home? That'd be super sweet. And so they're just like, yeah, they're just heading back to Zamaron. That entire story is now completely done with. But they do ask, hey, whatever happened to that Jediah guy? You think he's going to be okay? And the smuggler's like, yeah, he always lands on his feet. And then we see he's getting the same rundown of the rules. He's told, like, hey, everyone's going to be hunting you. You better watch out. You're now part of the hunted, Jediah call. And that leads into Threshold number 1, which will be coming out literally next week. So it's not a bad story overall, but it is such a side story. Like, I personally think that it is good for annuals to be a little bit separate in that they don't need to be read to understand the story that is going on overall. But this one felt like, dear Lord, there was just nothing connecting it. This could have been Superman. This could have been the Flash doing this. It could have been literally anyone. And they decided, nope, it's going to be the 3 other Lanterns that aren't Kyle. So it's not a bad story, but it does feel completely out of place in the larger Third Army story arc we got going on and Kyle learning his power set. And the fact that they also managed to just completely escape the situation is mind-boggling, because it's so... I feel like in a spacefaring society, the fact that they're able to just leave the planet on a ship seems like the easiest thing that they should have covered as an extremity already, but whatever. So yeah, overall, I'm going to give this one... I'm going to give it a 6.5. And I didn't comment on the art. The art is a little bit too scratchy for me. Just not a style that I prefer. But it's not awful. It has the style that I think they're going for. But it's just not quite the style I like. But I can recognize that it's all right. Story-wise, though, not a bad story, just very out of place. So 6.5, and we'll pick up in Threshold number 1.